Hello guys, it's Cassie Frass and welcome back. Today I'm drawing a little picture of Generation 4 Honeybuzz in my Generation 3 style because I really love her character design. I went over with True Green, I think it's called, for the background because I think it was a nice soft color. It wasn't too bright or too harsh, and it went well with her color scheme. Even though it was just the background, I made sure to take my time and build up layers for it. Because if I didn't build up any layers and just went in really harshly, I get a lot of streaks. And to make it more smooth, I just started using a lot of layers. The colors always blend themselves out, so even if I do make streaks when I start lightly, I could still fix it when I put in another layer. So I just start applying pressure lightly, and then slowly I start putting more pressure on to make sure that I get it nice and smooth, so it would look nice instead of all like bleh. The only problem with this is that my pencil kept getting really dull, so I had to sharpen it all the time, but I didn't, it's just a little minor setback for getting it really nice. I do have a video on my channel about keeping your Prismacolor pencils sharp, so if you want to check it out, maybe you can. I'll put a link down in the description for you. Moving on to like her fur color and like her face, I have like a really hard time seeing like yellow tones and tints, so I had to make sure the pencils I used looked nice together. So I did do some color swatches and experimented on a piece of scrap paper, and if you're not certain about how certain colors will blend into each other, it's a good idea to just doodle and like practice with them on another piece of scrap paper. And this is also a good way to help yourself warm up drawing, so you don't make silly little mistakes, and it also helps you to experiment and learn more about your color pencils. I always pick out the color scheme of what the piece will be before I even start coloring it out. So I do set aside the pencils that I'm gonna use and that are gonna be the main color focus, I guess you could call it, before I start drawing. And if I need a more darker contrast, I do add more like complementary colors in there and like darker oranges or like greens or whatever I need to make it darker in there. I am flipping my paper around a lot. I'm sorry if it's not very nice to look at as a video, but it really helps me out a lot when I draw. So I could get the right angles, precise, I guess you would call it, so that I could shade in the direction of the way her face would be flowing. So it's a good thing to turn your paper around if you need to when you draw. It really helps me out a lot. I try to keep my pencil rotating as I shade so that it will stay sharper longer, so that way I don't have to waste so much pigment on sharpening it and making it sharper. Sorry, I keep using that word. Need to increase my vocabulary. And it just really helps me out a lot saving pencils, so I don't have to strain my fingers. Like I get little blisters from sharpening so much, especially when I work on longer pieces. So yeah, a little tip, just rotate your pencil every now and again to make sure you're keeping it nice and sharp. I was noticing that my yellow wasn't really contrasting a lot, so I started adding a little bit of orange onto the piece so that it would look more dark and that she'd have more shadows on her, so she wouldn't look so flat. Because I really like how you can get so contrasting colors and color pencils to look so smooth. I could get a really dark, shadowy place next to a really bright highlight, and I really enjoy that. So I took advantage of, just using my orange and a little bit of like what would poppy red, and like blending it out with my white color pencil, and it just helped a lot in contrasting it. And burnishing really helps me out a lot in getting things smooth, because I'll make a little mistake and I could just use my white color pencil and it just helps me out so much. The only problem is it could make the colors more muted and less bright and kind of milky sometimes. So I try to burnish once I have enough layers on that I could barely see the tooth of the paper, so that way I won't take up so much white. I do have a colorless blender, but it just eats up all the tooth of the paper when I do that. So I prefer using my white color pencil instead of the colorless blender, because once I use that colorless blender, it's so much harder to get more layers on. So I like using my white because I could still put more layers on top of that. Moving on to her hair, I wanted to use the same colors I did for her fur so that it wouldn't stand out as much, and the piece would look more, harmonious, if that's how you pronounce it. I have a speech impediment. I have a hard time talking. Anyways, I was just having a hard time getting those contrasting colors, so I did use a bit of the muted yellow that was less bright, and more of the orange. More of the orange to get it more like a different shade of color. And it just goes to show that you don't need a lot of color pencils to make pretty pieces. You could still use like 4 colors, and you could get different shades and tones with just those 4 colors. So if you have a smaller set of color pencils, you don't have to worry about it. You could still make the same piece and colors with the 24 set as you can with like the 104 set. I love how Honeybuzz's eyes are blue instead of like a red or an orange, because that makes it stand out so much more, and it like just contrasts so much better with like the orange of her color scheme. I just love her character design. I think it's so pretty. For that nice bright highlights in her hair, I did add a base of white first before I even started shading anything. That way I shielded the white of the paper with the white pencil, so it would be nice and bright, and it wouldn't be diluted with any sort of yellow or red. It was just straight pure white. The hair was one of my favorite things to do on this piece. It's really fun to think of how that two-toned hair would flow and how it would contrast against the green background. And I just think it's really fun doing this for my little ponies, because there's such a vivid, wild universe you could have with these ponies, especially when they're like, the ponies that don't have no set design and aren't canon or anything. You could just do whatever you want. You curly hair, you could give them straight hair, you could design it any way you like, and I just think it's really fun. I just love her character design so much, and I just had fun working with this piece. And I do add little strokes as I shade, so that way I could give the hair texture instead of it being the same smooth texture as the fur or her face. And I just really like how they contrast like that. pretty smooth, but then it's not too smooth. It still has some texture that makes the piece interesting. I really enjoyed how bright and colorful this piece turns out. It's like so happy, and it reminds me of spring and summer, and it looks all warm. I just really like it. Tell me what you guys think. Do you think it looks okay? Is it one of your favorite pieces? Would you like to see me draw some other things besides ponies? Let me know. I'd be glad to take your suggestions. I can't talk. That is it for this piece, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like it, please make sure to subscribe and give me a thumbs up. And if you have any suggestions, just leave them down below in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a good day. Bye.